So tired of being sick. It's been a fucking week. It's been longer than a week. It's been a week and a half.
I get that. I get that.
Get back under my blanket. Hold on. I need to get cozy. Cozy is important. Prefacing this, I will talk about death, dead people, and the consumption of said dead people, if that bothers you. We'll see you next time.
Yes.
Don't do that to yourself, you know? I find it fascinating. You don't have to. Not required. But I am mostly going to focus on the legalities of cannibalism, because that's the part that I find fascinating. Is one of my main fun facts. It's a fun one to bring up at parties, folks. Is it cannibalism not illegal?
Yes. I feel like I have an idea of this, but we'll see.
So cannibalism always been around. Anthropologists and archaeologists have kind of realized that it has always been a thing and probably always will be a thing. They've identified three main types of times when cannibalism occurs. There's survival cannibalism, which is mostly what we're going to be talking about today. Ritual or cultural cannibalism, which is tied to beliefs and traditions. And warfare-related cannibalism, which is intended to intimidate. I'm really going to focus on those last two. I'm mostly talking about survival cannibalism. Also to preface, cannibalism has never been like widely popular or like normal, I guess. Like there's no society where like cannibalism is in everything. It doesn't exist anywhere to the point where it's people's main source of nutrition.
I'm really curious about like how, because I don't know if you're gonna talk about this at all, but like the reasons to like why we do not practice cannibalism that often, like as an everyday thing. That's not a huge thing that we do, obviously, but like why do we not do that?
I'm not really gonna get into that with this. It have to do with the like nutritional and medical aspects of it, because not only are humans not nutritionally a viable option for ourselves, if like eating enough human meat will cause you to die.
Yes, which is in is that what it's like? I need to Google something real quick before we continue.
I think it's prions. I'm not, maybe it's not prions, but I know it's like a medical thing that like we just can't survive off of eating ourselves. That's why like any culture that has tried to do that ends up like not lasting, because you just can't. You can't get. It's like the carnivore diet. Yeah, think of it like carnivore diet. Sure, you can live long enough, but you're not getting everything the body needs to survive. When it gets to a certain point, your life is going to be miserable, stinky. If you smelled some of these carnivore people, full offense to anyone who does this, you're stupid. Smell really bad.
Full offense.
Full offense, you smell really bad.
Question: isn't mad cow disease part of like a reason as to why we don't really do cannibalism?
Mad cow disease, I believe, is caused by prions, which is a protein. It has something to do with proteins, and prions can't ever die.
Okay.
So there's another one called chronic wasting disease, which is what a lot of hunters find is when they shoot deer, they have to test it for chronic wasting disease, because chronic wasting disease is prion. Prions don't necessarily show up right away, but they will kill you. Like there's no, you cannot get rid of prion diseases. It is a horribly painful way to die, and it never goes away. So the problem we find with prions is that even if something dies naturally, if something else then eats that, or if something with a prion disease pees on a plant and something then eats that plant, they now have prions.
Don't do that.
Do not look into prions. It is horrific. It is so scary because you don't know if you get it. It takes 20 to 30 years to even start showing symptoms. But it's like rabies. Once you start showing symptoms, you die. Rabies is a prion disease.
Okay, fun medical fact.
But I do think it's along the same lines, kind of. Yes and no. I'll just say, original question, yes and no.
It's somewhat connected to the reason as to why like incest, why that is bad. Because again, that has a lot to do with like we can't survive with that. There's too many diseases connected to that, so it doesn't work.
That's just that's more genetic, but yeah. So some notable historical examples of cannibalism. Starting off with prehistoric Europe, there is Europe, Africa, and early cannibalism. Amazing. That suggests that cannibalism has occurred for tens of thousands of years. They have found human bones that show processing patterns that were the same as animal bones were found in the same areas. So specific cut marks, teeth marks on the bones, evidence of them being cooked, things like that. We are not sure of the reason for this. Likely it was due to times of extreme food scarcity, survival during harsh climates, and or ritualistic behavior. Ritualistic less so because where they have found the bones, they're in the same areas as animal bones. Ritual bones tend to be in like different spots and have different signs of markings or distress markings on the bones themselves. So we have the Jamestown colony, which was 1609 to 1610. Jamestown, notably, the first permanent English settlement in North America. Permanent because, as we know, Roanoke happened. Roanoke didn't survive. So there was a time during this colony, it was called the Starving Time, where colonists faced severe food shortages, poor leadership, conflict with indigenous people, and disease. During this starving time, hundreds of colonists died. So historical records and archaeological evidence indicate survival cannibalism occurred. It is more likely, not most likely, but more likely, that they ate the people that died of diseases, which then caused more people to die, because then you get the disease of the person who died. Don't do that.
This is why also, like, no, just don't. Just don't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just don't. The next, I've just realized most of these two examples are both in the United States. Take that as you will. 1846 to 1847, the Donner Party was a group of American pioneers traveling west to California. They became trapped in the Sierra Nevada mountains, which at the time, an untested route.
Yes, is this the plane that like it went down?
No, but I'll get there. That's
Okay.
the next one. That's
So
the
I was
next
like,
one.
that sounded too old. I think that's newer, a lot newer.
Yeah, they didn't have planes in 1846.
No, no. I was like, this is not connecting.
Although if you ask the president, we had planes in 1776, so who knows? Anyways, they ended up getting stuck in these mountains, and food supplies ran out, and they did end up resorting to cannibalism, but only after deaths had already occurred. Half of the group survived. They were eventually rescued. This is the first actual like written example that we have of survival cannibalism happening, where people ended up eating those who had already died to live, essentially. Which then brings us to Andy's flight disaster, 1972, with the Uruguayan rugby team. October 1972, a plane carrying Uruguayan rugby team, their friends and family crashed in the Andes Mountains. The crash occurred because of freezing conditions and high altitudes, and there was no immediate rescue. So cold and dealing with avalanches constantly, they collectively made the decision to eat those who had died. This is why I tell my friends, if we're ever in a plane crash, don't die first.
I also,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this one I remember really clearly, like hearing about, like, as in, I saw something on TV and I was like, what the hell is this? What?
Yes.
What?
Yes. And
this is really
interesting. This is specifically where the issue of the legality of cannibalism comes in.
I do think that
it was
there was a one of the reasons too that they just couldn't be found is that they thought that they were somewhere else as well. There was something like that. They had to do like a different route, and then when they landed, they initially thought they had gone much further and they couldn't get contact with anyone or something.
Yes.
I think that was a part of it.
Yeah, they were looking for them in the wrong places. I know they were there for 2 or 3 months. Out of the original 45, 16 people survived. But it is the most well-documented example of human survival under extreme conditions. And also people having to make essentially life or death decisions in an ethical way. Because they did vote on what they would do. It did come down to a vote, and some reluctantly, they did end up agreeing on it. But this is the case into the legalities of cannibalism, because I believe at this time cannibalism was illegal, and I think some of them ended up being tried for it because families tried to say like, oh, you killed them to eat them, and this, that, and the other. Cannibalism is not technically illegal, in parentheses. So in many countries, I think most countries actually, cannibalism itself is not specifically crime. What is crime is the acts required to engage in cannibalism. So what you can be tried for: murder, abuse or desecration of a corpse, grave robbing, or assault. Those are your big 4. Abuse or desecration of a corpse it gets a little gray. So there was that guy in Germany, I think in like the 80s or 90s, I want to say the 90s, early 2000s, where he wanted to eat someone, and there was a guy who wanted to kill himself. So they kind of agreement. I believe he was tried with desecration of a corpse. and not murder, because he didn't technically murder the guy. There was an agreement. Like, it wasn't, it was another legally gray area. Cannibalism is not prosecuted directly. It's more of an indirect thing because they take into consideration what was happening at the time. So in case someone is put in an extreme survival situation, they're not afraid of like, oh, I can't do what I need to do to survive, because if I do make it out of here, I'm just going to end up in prison for the rest of my life. They don't want people to have that mentality. They want people to understand that if you need to do what you need to do, it's okay. They'll still look into it. They'll still investigate what happened. But if it comes down to it being extreme survival, you're not going to go to prison for having to do this. But that's the key, is it's your only option. So like the rugby team that was stuck in the Andes, it was the middle of winter. There's no other food. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So there is nothing else they could have done. And that's what they found, is there was literally, that was their only option. I do think a lot of people got sick from it too.
Probably. But also, this is my question, because I have heard not multiple cases, but I've heard this is a thing where you can like consent to something like a part of your body being eaten by another human.
No.
That's not a thing. Because I'm like, what the hell? Because I've heard of this being like an issue, kind of.
That came up during the case in Germany with that one guy. It is still legally gray, because if the other person doesn't die, then it, at the end of the day, if no one says anything, technically no crime has occurred.
Oh, so if the tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, did it fall?
Right. It depends on your country. It's going to wildly depend on your country, though. I can really only speak to the laws in the United States. They would definitely find like, if you got caught, they would definitely find something to pin you with. It'd probably end up being like assault with a deadly weapon, something like that. But the act itself, if no one dies and everyone is consenting, is not technically illegal. But most laws or anything regarding cannibalism is going to focus on intent. If it comes down to had to, that's different. If you knowingly killed someone to eat them, that's a crime. That's murder. They're going to pin you for murder. Like I said, don't go around eating people just because. That is a crime.
I do believe so. It's not correlated at all. In the same sense of like, okay, the act itself might not be actually illegal, but there's things surrounding it that is illegal. Like there's the actions around what leads to this happening that is illegal, which is multiple things, I think.
Yeah, legal stuff is fascinating to me. I love looking into like legal loopholes and things like that, just because it's like, I've just realized like both the things that I've talked about today are legal loopholes.
There's a theme.
I love stuff like that, because things like that fascinate me, because it's like, why? How did this end up becoming a loophole? Like with cannibalism, it's like, what happened that led to this point? There's also another case of cannibalism that I wanted to talk about that I didn't mention here, and it's the case of the Essex, but I want to do a whole episode on that, because that's one of the main inspirations from Moby Dick.
Stay tuned, I guess.
Yeah, there was some light cannibalism happening there too, and the families of the people who died tried to have the survivors prosecuted, but it was a whole thing. That's a different episode for a different day. Yeah, that's the legalities of cannibalism.
Hope you'll learn something new.
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Again, that's moral. I feel like the moral of anything we talk about.
Don't do it. Unless your plane crashed in like the freaking desert somewhere, don't do it.
Try to avoid it, honestly. It won't gain you anything except for you might survive. We need to have these disclaimers.
Yeah.
Each episode, just don't do what we're talking about. Don't do that. Learn from history. Don't do it.
Unless you're in that situation, don't. So that's it for this week's archive. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to follow, review, and share your own manifestations with us.
Until the next witching hour, stay curious.